Okay, I believe we should be live. I think we're just waiting on ADub. One Mercedes slot is open. Bruh indeed. I shall make sure the audio is coming through properly. Testing. Will, can you say something, please?
Test that, mate.
Alright, that's good. Do you see ADub in here? Are we going without him?
There's only one. You can't make it on time. It's,
damn.
His fault. Someone just joined now.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
just
him.
got in now.
He's in. Wow, okay, so in the nick of time, as the countdown is in its last 10 seconds, ADub joins. I mean, he could join during qualifying, it's not that close to disaster.
Just joined during qualifying.
Yeah. It's always a nice feeling to not have to worry about any of those glitches that could rear their ugly heads. Alright, good afternoon once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Coleslaw Cup Season 2, Round 4. This is the Chinese Grand Prix. It's been a little while since we've been at this circuit, but finally we are back. We are your commentators, Elmer Jacko and Will Ans. Hey, Will.
Yeah, mate.
Alright, yeah, as I said, we're back in China at the Shanghai International Circuit. As I said, it's been a while. Hasn't been around in real life for quite a few years due to the COVID pandemic, I guess. But fantastic track. Really sucks that it's in a country that keeps getting sort of cancelled. Got cancelled again for next year, I believe. What are your thoughts on that?
It's unfortunate. It does seem a little unnecessary considering everywhere else doesn't feel the need to do this, but it is what it is. At least we've got it on the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's been around since about 2005 in real life, and I think the last one was run in 2019 it would have been, I think. Yeah, 2019. So quite a few years of history there, about 15 or 16. But here we are for the first one in the Coleslaw Cup, I believe. Don't think that was run last season. Anyway, we've got last week's winner, GSR Ryan Rod's on the screen. Of course, he was a McLaren reserve last week. This week, reserving again in Mercedes. The teammates that he replaced last week are both back, Galloway and Jonathan Dunk. We've also got light work there, the only one still in the pits, winner of 2 Grand Prix so far this season. The only driver to be on the podium every race. And yeah, of course he's a championship leader as well. We've got Scabby there once again on medium tyres, as he's done in the last 2 qualifying sessions, I think, for his outlap or his banker, sorry. So we'll keep an eye on those guys, as well as the usual suspects of Scornsey, and potentially Dace and Landsey, who've been doing well in qualifying in the past few weeks. Dusty Lusky, of course, on the podium last week as well, so maybe keep an eye on him. But the first lap, we're probably going to keep an eye on Ryan Rodds, despite him being in a massive queue of cars here. It's always the way in the first run in qualifying, isn't it, Will?
Yeah, it's all about just trying to find a little free bit of track. Birdie's managed to do just that. I think he'd be the first driver to start a flying lap here. He's got plenty of track ahead of him.
Yeah, Bersey, of course, made his debut last week in the Australian Grand Prix. Didn't have the greatest round, I don't think, but hopefully he can acclimatise himself well to the league and get himself maybe a top 10. Mercedes running line astern here. We'll see if A-Dub picks up any time in the straight from his teammate. Very long straight, of course. I think it's the longest. Well, certainly it's one of the longest on the season. I'm not sure if it's the longest that there is. Got a bit of a yellow there. That'll be for, I think, an Alfa Romeo allowing some people through. I'm not sure if he was on a lap or... He probably would have been on a lap, so a lost lap there for the Alfa Romeo. Can't tell which one it is though. Purple middle sector there for Ryan Rodds. Although you'd expect that with no one setting a lap time yet.
Jersey about to cross the line to throw down the initial provisional time, 1:33.9.
I regret to inform everyone that I'm not really sure what the times are around here. I've yet to have a league race myself at this track on this game, so it remains to be seen if that's competitive. But it remains at the top for now, with 4 drivers setting lap times, until Dusty knocks it off with a mid-33. See what Ryan can do. He's coming around the last corner. There's a Ferrari ahead to go, yep, well there it is, 33.2 and 32.6. Okay, serious lap times being nailed immediately, it looks like. And yeah, 2 drivers into the 32s. Landsey as well, popping his way up there into P2 provisionally. A-Dub went into 5th with that. Dace is 3rd as well, so Scornsey has some time to find, but I'm sure everyone will find some time on their 2nd and 3rd runs in qualifying. I think it would have been Knuckles that may have had that second sector issue with the 2-minute 2. His teammate went 34.0, so that looks reasonably competitive there for KB. Sizzle now pops his Ferrari into 10th. Not sure where Valentine's been recently. He's missed the last 2 races, and Cam Sizzle has filled in that spot at Ferrari both times. Tweezer pops himself into the 17th slot, and Lightwork is coming through the first sector now. Through this snail section, which a lot of people don't like, but I find it... Oh, okay, Lightwork won't like it after that. But yeah, I was going to say, it is quite a nice section of unique track, I'd say. Only kind of similar to Sepang's first couple of corners, but then again, Sepang's no longer on the calendar either. So it's VTEC and Lightwork currently without times. Lightwork, I'm sure, will probably... Yeah, he's put his ERS to hold, and he'll be probably going for 2nd lap on this same set of tyres. Only got 2 corners of flat-out wear on them, so they should last. Depends on his fuel wear, or load, sorry, but we shall see. VTEC's entered the pits. He's of course a driver who does like starting at the back. He'll probably want to set a representative time though. See how that pans out. I've got a stack going on there at Mercedes, not that it really matters in qualifying. Who's on track? Dusty is. He's completed 2 laps on those tyres now. I wonder if that was a recharge lap because he's at 70% on his ERS. Would be kind of impressive if he can improve that on the same set of tyres. Snaking his way through the first sector. And does almost exactly the same thing as Lightwork, except goes completely around for a 180. So yeah, those tyres...
It's so easy to do that though.
True, very true. We'll go back on board with the...
if Lightwork can avoid making the same mistake.
Yeah, the championship leader now coming through that same set of corners. Let's not commentators curse him, please. Keeps it. Yeah, quite nice actually. Through the first sector split now, and well, he's definitely up on his time. but I don't see Purple. Does he stay flat now through this next left-hander? I think he did. Okay, so a lot of grip for the Aston Martin there. Now through this lovely right-hand section into the flowing double left. Also kind of hard on traction at times, but seems to nail it. Second sector split is Purple. Sounded like a bit of a lock-up there, but he hit the apex for sure. And now one of the most difficult corners on the track. Required for a good run onto the long straight, and it looks like he's nailed that again. DRS will be open on this straight now, and down towards the hairpin. Very difficult braking zone to nail. We've seen people who have wheels come off in this braking zone in real life. Well, only one person to be fair. Seems to nail that as well, and one corner to go to complete the lap. All light work. Nicely apexed as well. Cross the line, stay to the right, and he goes third. Pretty good banker there, I'd say. And yeah, he'll be doing better, I assume, in the next two runs as well.
Yeah, not quite able to join the 132 club just yet, but he's in a prime position to try and sneak in next time around.
Indeed. We've jumped on board now with the Alpine of Scavney. He's on a soft tyre now. Last run was on a medium, so we expect him to take a sizable chunk out of his previous lap time, 34.3. And we know this guy's ability is definitely higher than a 16th place grid slot. So through the first sector, it shows Purple. We'll see what that means by the end of the lap. Looks like he nails the traction out of the right-hand hairpin there. And again, not quite flat actually through the sweeper. Looks like he had a tiny feather of the throttle. You can see it on the trace down there in the telemetry graphic. Double left-hander now. Does it break traction? Oh, he doesn't use the full width of the track between the two apexes, but seems to come out quite nicely with a 4/10 gap to his previous lap time. So looking at a high 33, perhaps mid 33 here, depending on his last sector quality. And that would put him maybe somewhere on the fringes of the top 10 if he keeps it up by the end of the lap. We have a yellow flag. I think that was just traffic allowing other cars through. Yeah, you get a lot of yellow flags for people being slow on their out laps and in laps in qualifying. We've got a Mercedes stationary though in the second sector, which has to be Ryan Rods, I think, because AW shows is in the pits as Scavney exits the last turn and finds himself into the 5th place. So a very good last sector, 33.2. Okay, so he took a lot more than 5/10 out of his previous lap.
Yep, Thursday just crossing the line as well there. He improves by 2/10 but doesn't manage to make up any positions, just 3/100ths behind Cam Tizzle in P13.
Alright, trying to find someone who's on a competitive lap. Looks like Dacey's about 2.5 tenths up. He's in the last sector as well. Bit of a wobble there onto the long straight, though that will compromise him for a significant portion of this flat out run. We'll see how much that cost him by the end of the lap. Was there a tow there between the two McLarens? It looked like some assistance was going on. Good teamwork if that is the case. And last turn now for the Flying Fish. Oh, he was very close to invalidating there, but it looked like it was spot on. Lost a bit of time to his previous self, but enters the 32 bracket. And is, of course, P3 as a result. Let's move on to Scornsey, perhaps, as he negotiates the snail section of the first sector. Takes curb, actually, in turn 2. I'm not sure if I would do that.
Managed to DNF as well in sector 2.
Ah, damn. So one Ferrari exiting the session. That is unfortunate. I didn't see where even that was. You said sector 2, but where's the dot?
The dot's been and gone by now. Nicky crosses the line, improves by 3/10, but doesn't move up any positions.
Ah, very close though. Look at the 34-0 bracket there. We've got an 11, a 13 and a 26 in terms of the thousandths in that second. So very close to 14th, but still 16th. As Scornsey, I think, pinch to brake maybe, and that's probably going to compromise him here in this last sector, but he was purple in the middle, so there's scope to improve here for last season's runner-up. Currently P6, he'll be looking to definitely improve on that, I would imagine. Down into this hard braking zone, leaves it to around the 100 metre board. I think he was just before the 100 metre board to be exact. And one corner to go. Can Scornsy place this Ferrari? Oh, not in the barriers.
Place it off the track.
Yeah, it was a good save, but he's got to be careful about turning around here and not impeding anyone, and also not reversing too much to get disqualified. I think he's just about managed it pretty well. He has to do an entire lap now. It is an easy mistake to make. That last turn can bite you. Alright, let's have a look at the full traction master. It's A-Dub here in 7th place currently. You could hear the throttle coming down well earlier than most people in that second corner exit as KB puts his car on the second row of the grid. Alfa Romeo with a 33 dead, so close to that 32 bracket. That won't matter if he stays in such a high position. He'll be very pleased with that, I would imagine. A-Dub still flowing the car here through the middle of the lap. Let's see where his second sector split puts him, and he's 2.5 tenths up. So, flirting with that bracket as I was mentioning, the 32 bracket. Already full throttle, kind of ridiculous here, onto the back straight. And the Mercedes is flying, absolutely flying. Not many cars on track at the moment, so we'll stay on board with A-Dub's flying Mercedes, it would seem. And here we go into the braking zone. No hint of a lock-up there. He'll struggle on traction there for pace, not for avoiding spinning. Oh, and slaps it over the curb at the last turn. That looked really nice. Where does he go? Whoa, okay. Mercedes front row lockout currently. That is, Toto will be pleased with that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if anybody can knock them off the top spots in the final rounds of qualifying. It'd be nice to see a little bit more of a checkerboard pattern up the front with the teams.
Yeah, we've got a lot of cars on out and in laps here. I'm not sure which one is... I think the first one in the queue is Tweezer, who's currently 20th. Struggled so far this season. He's been on new input, I believe, a new wheel. Previously been a controller racer, so that's kind of understandable. And he is sort of closing the gap to the field with each passing session, so hopefully he gets a good number of laps in this race. I know he's been very unlucky and taken out in the past few weeks, really early on, so we'll keep an eye on the Williams driver. Hope he can get a finish on the board. Ooh. I had a message at the bottom of the screen then for someone's retirement, but it just immediately vanished as soon as I saw it.
It's Nicky in the pits. There are only a few cars on flying laps at the moment. Slayer Eye's able to improve by a couple of tenths. Just finishes his lap.
Tweezer finding some improvement in the first sector though. That's over the curbs. I'm not sure that will be the best line through the second sector hairpin there. Also feathers the stroll, same as Scavney through the sweeper, as A-Dub seems to be done with the session. Quite wide there, unfortunately, there for Tweezer, but recovers it nicely for the double left-hander. Let's have a look at his second sector split. Well, it seems pretty good compared to his previous best. Oh, it looks like he had a bag of understeer there, but manages to keep it sort of on the track. Now onto the back straight, we've got a couple of cars in front preparing for their laps. Looks like those out laps, sort of preparing their tyres with some weaving. And into the braking zone. Slightly early, I'd say, on the brakes. But apexes the corner nicely. One corner left to negotiate for the Williams driver. likely to stay 20th with this, but probably gaining maybe 8 tenths. Yeah, exactly 8 tenths. Alright, not bad. Improvement there from Tweezer.
VTEC currently barreling down the straight. Looks to have had the lap really well hooked up, although could be wrong on that one.
Yeah, it looks like 7 tenths advantage on his previous, so this could seem up as far as about 15th, as we've got a Ferrari perpendicular to the track.
Sideways there. Scornsey
I hope it's not
again.
Scornsey. Oh no, is it? Yeah, VTEC found more. True, you are right. That is pretty good detective work. Scornsey really struggling with that last turn. I've never seen this from him. 2 mistakes of the same type in one session. Ryan Rods is well up on his time. There's a potential 31 in this. As Dace goes to P2 provisionally. And there is that 31 by Ryan Rods. Incredibly impressive gap he's got on the rest of the field at this point. 3 purple sectors, I believe. Lanzy's got 3 tenths as well on his previous best, which could see him as high as 2nd. He may have picked up a bit of a toe from his teammate there as well, as Scavney running just in front of him. Maybe a loose toe, I'm not sure how exactly far behind he is. Both Alpines come through the last turn. Scavney doesn't find any positions, but Lanzy does, finds the front row once again. I think that's about maybe 3 this season so far, possibly all 4. I don't think that statistic is ready to hand at the moment.
By Lanzy. Light work, almost 3 tenths up on his best time as well. He shouldn't be quite challenging the guys right at the front, but he should be able to improve to get ahead of KB. Maybe A-Dub if you can really nail these last couple of corners.
Oh, that was a bit over the curve there. It's probably only P5, yeah.
P5.
Finds 32s though. Is anyone else
crossing the line now as well? Can't improve, or can improve by a tenth, but can't improve his good position.
Jonathan Dunk improved. He went to P6. VTEC's into the pits. I think everyone's either completed or coming into the pits. So it looks like session over, I'd say. And wow, Ryan Rods with a stonking lap time. Almost 5 tenths up on Lanzy, and like 8 tenths up on the remainder of the field. So Ryan Rods looking strong here, potentially for 2 wins in a row. Not unheard of in his realms. He's certainly a race winner, as we know. We've got Lanzy joining him on the front row. It's Dace in P3 and A-Dub joining him on the second row. Championship leader, 5th for light work, 6th for the returning Jonathan Dunk. KB and Scavney sharing the 4th row. Scornsey just inside the top 10 with 2 errors during the qualifying session in 9th. And it was the other McLaren of Galloway, I believe, in 10th place. We'll run through the rest of the grid once we have that leaderboard up. But for now, it's congratulations to Ryan Rods. And that bottom 10 is Easy Rider, Dusty, VTEC, Bursey, Sharia, Cam Tizzle, Slayer, Nicky, Knuckles, and Tweezer. Any surprises there for you, Will?
Not particularly. I mean, we've seen the guys that are pretty quick being up at the top. Sharia in P15, maybe a little bit lower than where he will want to be. But yeah, I mean, the guys at the back are the people that have tended to be at the back for most of the season so far. Dusty a little bit disappointing in P12 as well. He would have wanted to have achieved better than that. He definitely would want to be starting within the top 10, most likely the upper half.
Indeed. Well, the only comments I've seen post-qualifying, well, it's from KB. He's saying he screwed himself a bit by choosing his Saudi Arabia setup. And he's probably done a pretty good lap time for having the wrong circuit setup, I would say. I mean, Saudi Arabia is not that bad for a choice, I wouldn't imagine.
Could be worse, could be Monaco. But,
exactly. He's likely to have lower wings than you would want, so you would imagine that's going to be decent for battling on the straight at least, for defence and attack. So yeah, I'd say it could be worse. Definitely could be worse. Alright, well, as we wait for the drivers to ready up, I shall mention that I think Valentine is actually no longer a part of the Ferrari team. That seat is open, so we may see that filled permanently by Cam Tizzle, potentially, I don't know. But for some reason Valentine has stepped down. Yeah, and we must be looking at Smith Pell being unavailable this week, because I think that is who Ryan Rodds is replacing at Mercedes.
Yeah, and I think there was one other reserve at some point as well.
Yeah, Bersey
In
will
the
be
field, I'm
in
not sure.
for the Haas. I'm not sure who that was. Roster. Ah, it'll be forward.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe everyone else is in their seat. There's no other reserves, I don't think, this week. Alright, formation lap time here in round 4, season 2 of the Coleslaw Cup. Let's enable some telemetry here, and possibly some tyres. Boo yourself. Alright, top 3 are on mediums. A lot of mediums here in the field. 1 soft on KB's Alfa Romeo. Hards 4th through 6th and 12th through 14th. So sort of running in triplets there, kind of strangely. But 13 drivers on the medium compound. Of course, since an update about 3 or 4 weeks ago, 2 sets of mediums are possible to be held at this point. Fresh sets for the race. So much more likely for drivers to be starting on mediums nowadays. But we still have that variety. We've got both Haases choosing the hard tyre. We've got A-Dub, Light Work, Jonathan Dunk, Dusty, VTEC and Bersey. So it'll be interesting to see if the top 3 can break away, or indeed if KB can slice through the drivers in front and get to a podium position at some point during the first few laps before having to pit. You would imagine first. There's no chance of a wet race, I don't think. No, there's not. We have the weather cloudy here for this race. So, it should be straightforward. Medium to hard, I would think, if there's no safety car. Or potentially soft to hard for KB, and hard to either tyre for those who start on the hards.
It could be a little bit outside of the box, this race. I like it. Wrong setup, the only guy starting on the softs. It's a bit of unpredictability. Let's see what he ends up doing.
Very true. It's always good to be the only driver on a strategy, unless it's the worst strategy, of course, because it can be the best, depending on how safety cars and the like fall. Particularly if there's a VSC at the perfect time for him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he can shoot past the hard runners ahead as well, because obviously they're going to be at a disadvantage.
We have a serious angle on light work here. P5 is aiming, I mean, what is that, about 10 degrees, 15 degrees to the right?
Man on a mission. And the mission is to prevent a dub from occurring for one particular Mercedes driver.
Maybe both.
Prepare for 5 red lights. The field settled in their grid spots, and here we go. Lights coming on.
Alright, and round 4 is off.
Ryan Rodds does react very quickly there. Lanzi got bogged down.
Does he though? Dace is around the outside of both.
All around the outside of both of them. Fantastic start from the Flying Fish, but then he gets a little bit wide. He understeers on the entry. Ryan Rodds takes that position back. Lanzi a little bit too far back to try and reclaim second position.
Oh, there's contact.
Lightwork getting spanned.
Lightwork has been hit, I believe, by A-Dub.
Possibly involved. KB on the outside as well, just managing to avoid most of that. Cam Tizzle behind him in P7.
KB I was on board with because, you know, he had the softest tyres and he had a wonderful start, but sort of got a little bit boxed in and was a bit hesitant in turn 1. Sort of lost a couple of those positions straight away. but then gained the one, of course, for light work going around.
And Knuckles and Burzy going side by side as well through the fast left-hander. Neither driver wanted to back down. Knuckles has the inside now. There's a, I think there was a Red Bull off there as well of Easy Rider Yowie perhaps in the background.
No, it's Nicky. Nicky, the second, what is it? Aston Martin in trouble this race. We've seen Jonathan Dunk also down the field with no front wing at all on his McLaren. So there's been trouble that we haven't caught there as well. Light work, I mean, he was at the back. He's already made up 2 positions, but both of them have been compromised themselves. Working on Tweezer here. Important for the championship leader to stay with the pack, and he's indeed already passed Tweezer there. Has some time to make up though, for sure, as Slayer makes his way past Burzy with an incredible straight line speed there on the AlphaTauri, it looked like. So low downforce potentially.
All over the back of A-Dub, who does stay out, so maybe not any damage from that earlier collision. There was a driver there pitting though, that was Scornsy into the pits on lap 1, as KB goes down the inside of A-Dub at turn 1. Using the extra grip from the soft tyre, A-Dub trying to hold it around the outside though on those hards.
Yeah.
He's going to turn to the inside for the left-hander.
Damage on the front right for
Scornsy. Had a collision once there, but avoids it a second time. KB managing to sweep around the outside though of turn 2 with the extra grip advantage. We've got Tweezer, I think, around there, is it?
Kind of.
One, the Williams driver just
yeah, it'll be Tweezer, I think. Okay, a lot happened there in the space of about 30 seconds, including Tweezer actually got back past Lightwork briefly, but it looked like Lightwork then outbraked him into the hairpin. Then we had 5 cars into the pits, including a stack at Red Bull. Lots of front wings being replaced. I believe at least 5 drivers there, so chaos in the first lap there, and many drivers that you expect to be up the front now falling all the way down the field.
Sharir and Dusty swapping places as well there. I'm sure Dusty will be thankful to regain that position. A-Dub trying to put pressure on KB as well. Landy just so far staying within that 1 second of Dace, who seems to have some strong pace. Keeping kind of in touch with Ryan Rods, who does seem to just be the dominant force on the track this race week.
Burzy was pretty close to Knuckles there, but it looked like Knuckles had the straight line speed to hold him off, although Burzy does have an almost full battery to work with here. So, oh, he gets on the curb on the exit of the last turn and loses a bunch of time, but lucky not to spin out, I would say. Good catch. Closest fight looks like it might be A-Dub on the back of KB, so those softs maybe not working for the Alfa Romeo driver.
Enough to get him past, but it doesn't look like it's enough for him to pull away. Also interesting to see the fight here between Dace and Lanzi in terms of who can Dace pull that 1 second gap, or can Lanzi stay back in it. He dropped that a bit briefly, but then he used the DRS. He really pushed and regained some time. The DRS obviously very powerful on that back straight.
Yeah, obviously a good time to use it if you're just outside that 1 second margin before the first DRS of the race.
And he is going to have it. That should let him keep in touch with Dace now pretty effortlessly.
Oh, KB gets massive sideways. A-Dub just about, I think he did actually touch him, but surely if he didn't let off and brake, it seemed, he would have damaged his front wing massively. So a lucky escape for both of them, I'd say, particularly KB, who didn't lose a position. But now I've got 3 cars line astern here. Cam Tizzle having a look into the braking zone. No, I think he thought better of it. We've got an Alpine around the outside though of the Ferrari. Great move by Scavney, opportunistic, and it looks like he's going to completely move into the final turn. He does. A bit of a compromised line though. He does have the DRS to defend, but we'll see if Cam Tizzle has the straight line speed. Doesn't appear like he does. So 7th place there for Scavney.
Yeah, Burzy on the back of Knuckles as well. There's fights going on all over the place. Just 2 tenths separating P11 and P10. Knuckles running a little bit wide as well. Might invite Burzy to have a look, but there's not really anywhere that he can put his car to try and gain an advantage. Not quite yet anyway. Knuckles goes a little bit wide though. Burzy could look to maybe get him under the traction here. Coming out of the second corner, but Knuckles just going to be able to hold that one for now. Burzy a little bit too far back to send it down the inside. base now.
Kanaka was
within
able to take
1
a few
second
different
of
lines
DRS.
there. I think, yeah, as you say, back within the DRS for days. Yeah, certainly through those first 2 turns, it's such a great design of track that you can take different lines in it, and they're all fine, really. There's sort of advantages to going wide later in the corner. So Kanaka's taking advantage of that, although it does look here like he's under a bunch of pressure, and he's considerably got less battery available to him than Burzy does. I'm not sure Burzy even knows he can press the button, because he's currently at 100%. But he's very close now. He uses the button, confirms that I'm a bozo with that comment, and makes the move even before the DRS is open. So Burzy just waited, bided his time, or bade his time, I think, and now has 3.7 seconds ahead to catch Slayer. As we've seen a pit stop.
KB into the pit.
Yeah, 5 laps on those softs, so I would say useless tyres in that case, unless he can make hard last 23 laps, which may be possible. I don't know.
Yeah, not a great sign considering the.
No, he's going for a 2-stop.
4 laps.
Oh, it's a front wing change actually. That would explain why he wasn't able to keep up with the cars in front. Damage picked up maybe on lap 1 even. Smart to stay out this long, just in case there's a safety car, and also to sort of make a 2-stop more competitive. On the medium tyre, hopefully he brought 2 sets of those mediums for his sake. Comes out in front of all those who'd pitted previously, I believe. Let's just check that. Yes, 14th is higher than anyone else who's pit. VTEC the next task to put pressure on Knuckles. Of course, Burzy did quite well there because he was on the hard tyre and made a pass on the medium tyre runners. Seems like Knuckles won't have the DRS to defend this either. So 1 Haas last lap. Will it be the second Haas on lap 5? Coming past Knuckles. It's ERS already deployed, and DRS now. Looks like the move will be done by VTEC up into the top 10, joining his teammate. And well, Knuckles is close enough to make a move back on the next DRS straight, on the front straight. Has slightly more ERS as well. Defensive line from VTEC into the last turn. Oh, actually has the DRS. Was he close enough to Burzy at some point? That's crazy. I didn't think he was. That's not what my timing showed at the time, but maybe I was not paying quite enough attention. There was some seriously loud traffic outside.
Indeed.
Oh, Cam Tizzle. Yep, got very close to the back of Scabney.
Straight into the back of Scabney there, but
Responsible driving to avoid him and go wide.
yeah, gets away with it. For now, Knuckles trying to stick with VTEC. He's got light work on the back end as well. He'll be looking to make a move on and fight his way through the field. He's of course one of the quicker drivers in the field, is light work.
Of course, Lanzi has fallen well outside of the DRS window. I think this lap, 8/10 down on his previous best time through to the second sector split, finds himself 1.9 behind now with a bit more sideways action in the last few corners. Maybe his mediums are starting to go off. It's pretty early to say that, but the time loss sort of indicates it.
You can have those laps though where maybe you make a couple of mistakes and it just seems to sort of snowball. You try and push a little bit more through the next corners to try and make that up and go over the limit and lose even more, so perhaps that's just what happened.
Yeah, definitely a reasonable theory there, as Scabney may pick up a warning for that wide run to the last turn, but he is definitely pressuring ADub at the moment. Kind of needs to make the pass though, because he's on mediums. ADub is the highest driver on the hard compound, sort of, what is it, 4 positions higher than the next one. So his strategy will come good.
Knuckles looks to get
race.
past VTEC here. He looks to move to the inside, but VTEC just able to carry more speed.
There comes light work.
Light work takes advantage, and down the inside he goes. Already straight onto the back of VTEC as well now. After making that move, he could look to maybe pressure VTEC into the next corners. Uses a little bit of ERS as well. He might look to go down the inside like Daniel Ricciardo did in the, I believe, 2019 race there on Valtteri Bottas. Dusty getting past Tweezer as well. But they're still going to be side by side as we go into the fast left-hander. Around the outside, which turns to the inside for light work. VTech struggling to hold on. And that's a well-worked position there from light work.
Yeah, fantastic execution from the championship leader. Finds himself back into the top 10 after a troubling start to the race. Not really sure who was at fault for that incident, but regardless, he paid the penalty and he has to sort of fight his way back through the field. Doing a pretty good job of it so far.
Yeah, we're flying through this race, lap 7 already, about to go into lap 8.
Indeed, we've got a sort of a blanket can be thrown over the 3 drivers here from 5th to 7th. Adab sort of holding up 2 medium runners, which is great for his strategy. Not so much for theirs, as VTech reclaims the position briefly there on light work. Not sure exactly how that's happened.
Not sure, but I think Lightwork's going to reclaim it again pretty effortlessly into turn 1 with the DRS. I'm not sure VTech's going to have an answer for that one. So Knuckles could even look to get involved. He's got the DRS, but not quite close enough on this occasion.
Indeed, so that's the second time we've seen Lightwork pressured into the... Oh, we've got Reinrod spin.
That's Reinrod's.
Amazing. Okay, new leader is Dace. Lanzi also picks up a position.
To Dace's benefit.
Well, this is true. We haven't seen Dace make it to the end yet, but at around the quarter distance mark, we have a lead change. Uncharacteristic mistake there from Reinrod's. But yeah, to finish my comment before, Lightwork under pressure into the braking zone of the hairpin. Potentially, he might be running more downforce, and therefore the draggier car not so fast on the straight line. We'll keep an eye on that elsewhere, but I mean, Lanzi's under extreme pressure straight away from Ryan, who recovers a position immediately. Obviously his tyres aren't screaming at him because he's already made a move. He might be screaming at himself though for that mistake.
Yeah, 2.8 seconds ahead today, so I'm sure you can close that gap. Whether he will or not is a different story, but if Lanzi wants to come back at him, he's going to try and do it quickly, but he doesn't have the ERS really to have an answer for Ryan, I don't think, who...
But VTech has an answer for Lightwork, once again, into that braking zone, makes the move, but Lightwork with an over and under. Yeah, I'm definitely sensing that we have a lot of downforce on this Aston Martin.
Jacko's downforce sense is tingling. Jonathan Dunn getting by Tweezer, who's had a spin coming out of the right-hander that leads onto the main straight.
Indeed, indeed.
It's going to be interesting to see if Lanzi can stick with Ryan Rods. Maybe Ryan can pull him all the way up towards Dace, and we can have a 3-car battle for the lead.
Yeah, so interesting race so far for some of these drivers. Scornsy's still down in 15th place. Not sure if the gaps in front of him have been reducing or not, but damn, this is not where we expect to see the Ferrari driver. He'll be looking perhaps for a safety car at some point, maybe a bit later in the race that can make mediums work to the end. But yeah, 15th place, not a Scornsy position.
No Scornsy position at all. It's been perhaps a slightly uncharacteristic season from Scornsy so far. I don't think he's regularly hit the levels that he expects from himself and that we expect from him as well, I think, but still plenty of time left to turn that around in both this race and in the season.
Of course, it's not like his form in other leagues is like this either. We've seen him have some fantastic drives elsewhere, so it's nothing to do with his current form. Maybe it's just luck or how he wakes up on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Alright, looks like the Alpines are the only real cars putting pressure on cars in front. Maybe you could also say Cam Tissel and VTech. But light work, you would expect to sort of break away if you can at some point.
If he does have the downforce advantage, then this is the perfect time to show it through Sector 2. Try and break that DRS that light work holds currently.
It looks like Ryan is catching back up to Dace, and Lanzi sort of tacking onto the back of him with a lasso.
Yep, Tweezer losing another position there as well as Easy Rider Yowie goes flying past. Shreya Coleslaw 5 seconds adrift in 20th place, not having a great time of it at the moment.
Galloway having a pretty decent run there, up in 4th place. Haven't mentioned him, he's by himself, but that McLaren sort of minding its own business and staying out of trouble, doing very well. Yellow flag is out. VTEC has made an error.
VTEC, last corner, sorry, the last corner before that long straight. He's going to lose a lot of time and a lot of positions there, unfortunately for him. Lanzi catching up to Ryan Rod, sorry, catching up to Dace as well in the past few laps. He's brought that gap down by a second, so he is going to be challenging to take back that P1 spot that he relinquished through his own mistake.
Yeah, last week we saw a pole to victory for Ryan Rods. It wasn't that simple, as there was a lot of story at play during that one. Also not so simple this week if it happens to be the case. He does like to make it hard for himself. But we'll see if that pans out by the end of the race. We're on to lap 11, and yeah, we're still yet to see anyone other than KB try soft tyres. Probably won't until maybe the last few laps with a fastest lap attempt perhaps, or a late safety car. KB, that man we mentioned, is on the back of VTEC now and looking to make a move around the outside potentially. Ooh, this could be a good move if he pulls it off. VTEC showing him the exit curve, but keeps his nose in and makes the move work. Incredible move there from KB, well done. Oh, VTEC got very close to taking a nibble out of his diffuser there.
This fight for P5, 6 and 7 is also still so close as it has been throughout the entirety of the race. Ryan Rod's knocking on the door of Dace's DRS as well up front.
Yeah, it seems AW just has the right amount of downforce to counteract any attacks by Scavney. And indeed, the longer it rolls on like this, the better it is for AW, because his tyres are just going to improve compared to the medium runners behind him. And he might even be able to escape at some point. It might even be that he's faster than the cars behind, but unable to escape due to the DRS pulling along the pair in 6th and 7th. So kind of hard to tell. It's not as bad for that as tracks like Russia and Bahrain, but certainly a massive help on that long straight. Having a look at the position change so far, we've got 2 drivers up 9 positions. That's Cam Tizzle and Slayer, 7th and 8th currently. So sort of moving up as a pair. Knuckles up 8 positions as well, as Tweezer has left the session. Hopefully he rejoins. The most in the negative direction, positions lost, is for Jonathan Dunk, unfortunately, down 11. The DRS gap has been breached up front, and indeed Lanzi has fallen out of Ryan Rod's DRS margin as well. So clearly the Mercedes driver has the pace advantage over his competitors. Just needs to tone down that one error he's made has been the difference between leading the race comfortably and being in a bit of a fight, as Galloway is the first driver to pit off the medium tyre, joined in fact by Scavney. So we'll expect these guys to put hards on. Indeed, it is the hard tyre for the McLaren. It gets held tiny amount there by the Alpine guys. Well, the McLaren guys held him, but there was an Alpine in the way.
Knuckles going into the pits as well.
Slayer as well.
A few drive.
So they do all go for hard tyres, I believe. Makes sense. 12 laps on mediums.
Interesting to see if any of the top 3 decide to box as well this lap. Very much now on the back of Dace, you might think about coming in.
Yeah, if
Also,
you're in a battle where you
Lanzi
can't pass, then it certainly makes sense to offset your pit lap with that rival. However, I mean, Ryan Rods has demonstrated a good amount of pace over Dace, so it won't be too important to pit on a different lap, and indeed he may actually want to pit on the same lap or after Dace. Dace may want to worry about an undercut here, but if he pits earlier and comes out in traffic, that's just as bad as being undercut, in fact probably worse.
Yeah, Lanty might be thinking about making an undercut maybe. It's clear that he doesn't quite have the pace at the moment to stick with the guy on the head, so that might be his only choice. As both of the top two pit, and Lanty follows them in, so the top three all in the pits.
Ryan really thought about continuing, but he actually braked for the last turn, then let off and continued. So, bit of indecision there. Not sure why that would be. Either way, puts the hard tyre on.
Lead for now.
Yeah, so for A-Dub, a safety car at this point would be massive. Because he'll get a cheaper pit stop. That's for sure.
Skunzi gets past VTech and then runs off the track, going deep on the brakes, and VTech's going to fight him back. I think Skunzi has the DRS there.
Couldn't quite keep the car on the track though for the Haas.
And I think that was pretty unwise there by VTech. I don't know why you wouldn't let off in a situation where you're approaching that DRS line and you're just ahead. Yeah, I don't understand that one.
He's still there or thereabouts. It's a fight.
Yeah, if he'd lifted off though going into the final corner, he would have been able to just DRS. Got to the first corner and he would have been completely fine. But well, Scavney now on the back of Cam Sizzle as well, as Scavney setting the fastest first sector, at least according to my screen.
So, at some point Cam Sizzle has overtaken Scavney, which we missed in the shuffle of the pit stops. But they were definitely in the other order previous to this.
Yeah, but Cam Sizzle seems to be struggling to get those hards perfectly warmed up, at least compared to Scavney. Scavney looks like he has more grips than Cam through pretty much every corner. He's all over the back of him. He could look to make a move down the straight now. I'd be surprised if he wasn't challenging into the hairpin.
Cam Sizzle already on the ERS there, and he has significantly more to fight with than Scavney does, but even so, the closing speed with DRS is massive, it seems. And with only 5% remaining in his battery, Scavney has his nose down the inside. Cam is, well, he was challenging on the outside there, but he'll look to get it back maybe into turn 1 with a second helping of DRS. Although Scavney did negotiate the last turn really well.
Final corner there, yeah, and he's going to lose ground, and I think that might just stop him from going back for the overtake.
Yep, so just has to stay with him. He's got KB to worry about in behind as well, but those mediums on the Alfa Romeo are 10 laps old, so they may not be as bitey at this stage of their life as the sort of second lap hards. So Cam Sizzle has one less lap on those hards than Scavney, so did he overcut Scavney potentially? Is that what happened there?
Quite possibly, it does look like that's what's happened. Lancy getting absolutely killed here by the slower traffic of Bursey, who was holding him back as the top two managed to bolt away, but Lancy's still not able to negotiate the final corner very well. He's going to actually come under pressure from light work here, maybe even.
Yeah, no obligation of course by the traffic that's yet to pit to let anyone through. They're not a lap down or anything like that, so nothing wrong there by Bursey, as there's position change ahead. Dace has been overtaken by Ryan Rods for the net lead. Currently Mercedes 1-2, but A-Dub is in the pits at the end of lap 15. Going to be 13 laps on mediums, which is kind of more than
most to come back at Ryan Rods here.
There was a move there at Cam Sizzle and Scavney.
He isn't deploying any DRS, which is just going to prevent him from making that move. He most likely otherwise could have. Lancy getting past Bursey.
Yep, that was Bursey deep into turn 1, otherwise the move wasn't really on.
Wide on the entry to the first corner as well.
Where's A-Dub
past KB as he pits.
Wow, A-Dub has emerged with a bigger gap over the drivers he was fighting than he had previously. Of course, his tyres are a bit cold, but even so, the mediums should be able to hold that outside of DRS. And he's actually much closer to Galloway than he had been previously. So this is working out fantastically for Mercedes. Just made a move up front on Dace for Ryan, and A-Dub now with the quickest tyres in the top 7 for the remainder of the race. net fifth, of course, as Burzy and Lightwork, you'd imagine, will... Yeah, well, they definitely have to pit. They haven't pit yet.
Dace within half a second as well of Ryan Ross entering this little complex here before the main straight. Dace twitching, almost losing the car there. He's going to drop out of DRS. Normal Dave shenanigans there as he almost spins off.
Yep, so Burzy and Lightwork are the only two drivers yet to make a pit stop. 15 laps, or that will be 16 laps at least on these hard tyres. You'd imagine it's the best time now to go for mediums, or if they want to stay out longer and go for softs, they might want to stay out for maybe another at least 4 to 5 laps. But Lightwork does indeed pit. You'd imagine that's going to be a medium tyre fit to the championship leaders Aston Martin, as that's a 3-second penalty for A-Dub. Where's he picked that up? The last turn? Man, that's going to be costly potentially, as he already finds himself within DRS of the McLaren in front.
The last corner can be an absolute killer though.
I imagine that's the only place you can really pick up a warning around this track.
Filters into P10. Scornsey and Dusty both in the pit as well. KB might come up close here to Scornsey perhaps. No, smoking out ahead. Scornsey finding himself a little bit in no man's land actually ahead of VTEC.
So 2 stops for a couple of drivers there.
Side by side with Jonathan Dunk here. Jonathan Dunk just about getting in a position. And Sharia too far behind to take advantage. All over
he's monstering Galloway.
Well.
We've been on board with that as you were covering the pit stops. And yeah, it looks like this DRS straight is going to be the place to make the move. Let's see how much ERS is to play with. Okay, not much actually for A-Dub. And Galloway has most of his in reserve, so it's going to be all the rear wing here.
Strength of the DRS, he should be able to get alongside. And he goes down the inside. Can he get it slowed down?
Oh, forces the McLaren wide. Galloway won't be too pleased with that.
Galloway won't be happy with that
as
one.
Burzy makes his pit stop. Galloway has a lot of ERS to work with here, but I don't think he's got the traction A-Dub does to sort of escape already. The DRS is closing the gap, but now that they've got into this sort of non-DRS area of the track, A-Dub will look to increase his margin to over a second by the time they get to the back straight and escape, basically. And then he needs to escape another 3 seconds up the road to make that position last. And he'll just pray that there's no safety car to mess with that. Cam Tizzle and Scabney still battling away.
Close battle, as well as Cam and Scabney as well, of course.
They've got a reasonable margin back to Slayer behind, who has 4 seconds himself over Lightwork, but you would imagine that gap will reduce. Lightwork, we know, very fast driver, and he's on better tyres as well. As we see the Rebels swap position as Sharia makes his second stop of the race. So that's maybe 3 or 4 2 stops, it looks like. Let's have a check of that.
And Galloway already fallen out on a second as well of A-Dub. He does just have the DRS down here though. Scavney activates his DRS as well. He's going to suck up the restriction with Cam Tizzle. He needs to break the toe a little bit. Not any more than would be allowed though, I don't think.
No, of course. And we've got problems for a Haas. Yeah, VTEC there dropping down to 17th place. I think that's his second problem of that kind, as we now have a new fastest lap there for A-Dub as he escapes 5th place.
Not quite going to be close enough, I don't think, to make a move on Cam into turn 1, unfortunately, unless Cam makes a mistake, which it doesn't look like he's going to this time around. Like we're driving the fastest off the race so far. As Jonathan Dunk gets past Knuckles, and there's the mistake from Cam Tizzle. A slight wiggle on traction allows Scavney to get side by side, but then Cam manages to recover, and I think Scavney is going to have to stay behind.
Scornsey making the move here into turn 1 over Nicky. Yeah, definitely Nicky gave him a bit of room there, and it was enough to slide up into 12th place. We've got yellow flags now for a McLaren. Is that Galloway having issues? Yep, Galloway had the issue. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, did you say Slayer was the other one who went around?
Scavney and Cam Tizzle side by side as well. Through the final set of corners there, gaining on Galloway as well. So both of them may actually end up having the DRS here.
Yeah,
They're still going to be side by side.
That was why that Cam Tizzle was under pressure as Scavney makes the move around the outside. It was because he almost made the move on the recovering Galloway, and he sort of got a bit balked there. I don't think it was an unsafe rejoin. It was just unfortunate where that happened. Good for Galloway that he was able to stay in front and in fact breaking DRS somehow. But here comes Cam Tizzle back.
Going to get the DRS as well. Cam Tizzle's going to be able to go down the inside here with the aid of the DRS.
That's the problem with making a move right before a DRS detection zone. As now the other McLaren has an issue. Jonathan Dunk, yeah, so McLaren's with banana peels underneath their tyres currently this lap. And VTEC makes a position where he lost the positions last lap. So that excitement kicked off with Galloway, at least one of the drivers who had made an error in the middle sector. He recovered it, but Cam Tizzle was right next to him. Cam couldn't make the move work. Scavney put his car next to Cam, allowed Galloway to briefly break the DRS zone. Scavney made the move before the DRS detection, which probably didn't work out for him well because Cam was able to just slice back through. And I'd say Cam probably has a bit less wing than Scavney, based on how these moves have been working between them on the mains or on the long straight. But now both of them are within DRS of the car in front.
Knuckles as well are fighting over P14. Canadian Civil War here down into turn 1. Dusty just managing to hold it around the outside though, after he made the position up at the hairpin. Knuckles tried to come back at him down the pit straight, but couldn't quite get close enough to make that move, especially when Dusty had the outside. He was able to swoop around there and carry extra momentum. This fight for P5 is going to be interesting as well though, because Cam and Scavney both look to have more pace than Galloway.
Yeah.
Scavney might actually make the move here on Cam. He's got a brilliant exit, both of them with the DRS. It looks like Scavney maybe with slightly lower wings as well. They are going to be side by side though. Will Scavney force Cam off track? Cam tries to switch back a little bit, but that's a good overtake there by Scavney, nice and clean as well, and he will have the DRS as well from Galloway to defend from.
Amusing that he was able to make that move when the car in front had DRS, but not when the car in front didn't have DRS.
Base just staying within a second as well of GSR Ryan Rods. They intersect too, something just to keep an eye on as well.
Yep, and it looks like
a spin there from Scavney. He managed to catch it.
Then it almost was for Cam Tizzle. Crazy, sort of in sympathy there, putting the throttle down too much.
Looks like he could maybe take advantage and ended up losing that advantage in the end. Perhaps he tried to turn suddenly to get to the side of Scavney and cause himself a spin. Talking about
spins, yeah, it was Sharia there, I think, whose gap to Tweezer has now increased even further after a bit of an error there onto the long straight. Having a really unfortunate race for the league owner there.
Cam Tizzle needing to pick the pace up just a little bit to keep in touch with Scavney.
A bit of battle here for 16th. Jonathan Dunk using some ERS to come around the outside of VTEC. Oh, it's actually very close into the braking zone. VTEC back pass for now, but on the exit looks like more traction for the McLaren. Almost bumping wheels, and now through the sweeping left-hander. Oh, actually there's a half off. It's Bursey there. Currently 9th, but going to be down to probably at least 11th here. Slayer and KB come through. So, seen a lot of errors recently on track, but no one retired so far. 22 laps into the race, 20 drivers.
Galloway, they come through the final corner. KB getting past Slayer eyes, but Scavney looking to make the move on him. Galloway going into turn 1. He's going to have the outside as well, which should let him swoop around with more momentum if he can find the grip. But Galloway doing a great job to provide a strong defence here. The outside turns to the inside though for Scavney. However, on this tighter line you do have to be careful with your traction because you're demanding more grip from the tyres to turn at a much tighter angle. Galloway looks to just have that position for now, but Scavney is tucked in behind. He moves to the outside, still looking to make the move on Galloway. They do bump a little bit there as well. Cam Tizzle also looking to get involved as well on Scavney, who's been slowed up by this battle.
Yeah, Galloway really knows where to place his car defensively there, and when the car was next to him he gave room as well on the inside and outside when they turned into each other there. So yeah, great driving there from Galloway, and he's even got more battery to work with, so despite not having DRS to defend with, though there wasn't in that move. He's keeping the position as... Is that Cam down the inside? Briefly there of Scavney? Scavney sort of turned out of the corner. I couldn't tell if that was the case.
I'm not sure, but it's not helped Cam because he's now out of a second of Scavney, so...
But within a second is Dace.
Down too, though.
Dace has found himself only half a second behind Ryan. Well, he only has less than 10% on his battery, so Dace probably won't be able to make a move soon, but if he can save it for a couple of laps and stay within DRS, that might be the ploy here. Landsy sort of in no man's land, 5 seconds, or 5.5 seconds behind that battle, but 7 seconds ahead of ADub, who's also in no man's land. Ahead of this three-way fight. It's kind of stretched out in the last few corners, but still remains almost a three-car fight. Scornsy might find himself in the top 10 by the end of this. He's 1.6 back from 10th place. Slayer needs to sort of charge that down because this is a recovery drive for sure from him. Damage on lap 1, we saw that pit stop. Making a 2-stop is not ideal, especially when there's no safety car, which there has not been yet. Three-tenths gap up in this fight for 5th place. So clearly the tyres are better on Scavney's car currently, or at least something's better because he's faster, but he can't make the move. Let's have a look here at the tyres to make sure of that. Well, they're exactly the same tyre age and compound, so it's not the tyres. Well, I mean it could be, but we don't know that.
And Scavney able to bring the gap down to half a second again after the little incident with Cam Tizzle, who also managed to bring the gap down as it was over a second earlier on.
Talking of gaps down, Scornsy is right behind Slayer. It was 1.6 only about a minute and a half ago, and it's going to be negative time in a second here as Scornsy finally back into the top 10 after 23 laps. And, well, actually I think he was inside the top 10 briefly there before he made a pit stop. But now finds himself net 10th, and maybe looking at KB's position as well to salvage points for 9th, which would be pretty good, I'd imagine. Because the gaps have just been massive in front of him. And indeed, if he gets past KB, the next car will be probably 11 seconds up the road.
Yeah, sure. Coleslaw closing in on the Ghost Tweezer as well, and Jonathan Dunk trying to fight to get within the second of Knuckles if we are to look further back amongst the field. They losing that DRS to Ryan Watts by quite a significant margin, 2 seconds though, the gap between first and second place.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Dace.
Keeping Galloway honest here though, he's all over the back of it. And Tizzle within striking range as well.
But striking range is coming down from the car behind this trio as well. Lightwork is about to enter the battle, and he has better tyres. He has the medium. They're 3 and 4 laps older than that group, so we might be able to see this man create maybe a 5th place out of what is currently 8th. And he's going to lose his podium streak, it looks like, at this stage with only 4 laps to go. But for the championship leader, it's important to reduce the points loss to drivers like Ryan Rodds, Dace and Landsy. So, see if he can make any moves here.
Yeah, we're talking about moves. Bursey going down the inside of Slayer Rise as well into the hairpin. Don't think Slayer is going to have an answer for that as we see a spin from one of the Red Bulls. It's the one that's just behind the McLaren, so it is Easy Rider Yoey. Slayer might look to maybe try and make a comeback on Bursey, but Bursey just carries too much speed. Jonathan Dunk making a move on Knuckles as well down the straight, which had been coming as he was closing that gap down.
Indeed, Knuckles went a bit deep there into the hairpin, but saved it.
As well. Yeah, light work in the DRS of Cam as well, so it's now a 4-car battle.
How am I looking
Scavney's complete Scavney's failure to make the move on the slower car ahead of him does look to have put him in some jeopardy now. From light work behind.
Ryan picked up a cheeky DRS from Tweezer's Ghost car there, which won't help Dace's flight at all.
I think that's pretty much
Oh,
Right,
Cam goes
so
really deep there, and that's going to put Lightwork right on him.
Yeah, Lightwork's going to be interested now. Lightwork might actually go down the inside here. Will Cam use the space? He does see him. Both will have the DRS though, of course.
Great
Scavney
run
also
actually
trying
onto
to
the
look
straightaway to Cam Tizzle.
at making a move. Scavney could make the move here on M Galloway as well.
We can see
Goes
both
to the
moves potentially
outside.
on board here, and down the inside from Lightwork makes the move work, I think. Yeah, Cam couldn't make an over and under work, but up in front, Galloway defending for his
Scavney's
life.
gonna get the exit here. He's going to be able to use the DRS, and he should be able to get past Scavney burning ERS despite having very little of it left.
Yeah, both of them
And
really low.
M Galloway manages to defend this again. I think it's going to be
Sweeping move there.
maybe
Oh, bit of contact.
just a little bit too much to ask. They are making a little bit of contact as well. Will Scavney now finally get this position? M Galloway deploying the DRS, Scavney deploying the ERS, and they're neck and neck going into the right-hander. M Galloway with the inside line. Scavney may have to settle again to be behind, but
No, he's got the traction, and now to the flying left.
Down the inside through the flying left-hander.
Just about makes it work.
Galloway can't quite hold that in, but by delaying this overtake so much, what Galloway has done has allowed himself to be very close when we approach the next DRS straight. Perhaps he can make the move to re-overtake, as Lightwork is going to be pressuring him, so it's all or nothing. Lightwork with almost full ERS as well.
Yeah, Lightwork might be about to make a double overtake here. I don't think that these guys can defend this because they've got hardly any ERS. This man's almost got a full battery of deployment. Can have the rear wing open as well. Cam Tizzle's not close enough to join the fight.
Going side by side as well, and Scorsese gets that move done.
Yeah, we said
will get back to
KB
that
there
fight.
had a penalty as well to work with that lap. Oh, Lightwork is on the grass.
Lightwork did a bit of a epic George Russell moment there.
KB's lost the rear. Oh, so does Lightwork.
Lightwork
That
nearly
cost
loses it
him
too.
an attempt at Galloway there. Cam not quite close enough to make the move on the Aston Martin. Yellow flags are for the recovering
off as
KB.
well.
I tell you, it's all happening, and in this time, ADub is massively closed in on Lansley, but it's not going to be enough, especially with a penalty.
No,
I wonder if Lansley's had an error there at some point. Easy to do when you're sort of bored by yourself.
And so there are only 2 laps left now, including this one that we're on. Lightwork does need to get a move on if he wants to grab this P5, but I'd say the cards are still stacked in his favour as KB does retire. That's in the pits. It's not like it would be early enough in the race to go to safety car anyway now. We're far too late on.
Yeah, so
in the
first
race,
retirement
so
there.
this will be, I think, our first race of the season without a safety car as well here in Coleslaw Cup. It's good to see, especially with the amount of clean racing that has been going on.
Was there one in Bahrain? We had no retirements, I don't think. That's the only one I can think of that may also have been no safety car.
Yeah, quite possibly. I'll have to check up on that, but either way, an achievement for the drivers out there.
Absolutely, not much attrition.
Scavney nearly losing it. Scavney nearly loses it. M Galloway zips straight past him.
Yeah, and there's going to be no
Lightwork
DRS, I
also
wouldn't think,
looking
here
to
for
upset into the
Scavney.
woods.
So, yeah, he's
No
been
DRS, and
totally
Lightwork
rolled by
gets it.
that.
M Galloway has it too. Although he has very little
Oh!
DRS, and Lightwork nearly goes straight into the back of him. He has to swerve to avoid that. Scavney might look to actually re-overtake Lightwork, but he can't
No,
quite
can't manage the
do
traction. His
Lightwork
points
did well
flashed
there
before his eyes
to
there.
not lose. He did well there to not lose more time than he did.
What an amazing direction of, like,
And
how that
Lightwork
went.
around the
What was
outside
that?
of M Galloway as our
Oh.
sideline reporter Cornet confirms over text that there were no safety cars in Bahrain.
Oh, thank you, Cornet. Alright, yeah, Lightwork. I don't know what happened there to make him have to go onto the grass. I'm not sure if that was a late move by Galloway. I couldn't really tell. But either way, lucky from both of them that there was no massive collision there.
It didn't seem to me like M Galloway did anything wrong there. I think Lightwork just misjudged
Misjudged
his
it?
braking point.
Yeah.
Perhaps he
It
uses
did
the
seem that
racing
way.
line and M Galloway's car on top of the racing line just offsighted him a little bit, who knows, but he did well. Quick reactions there to avoid a massive incident, and this is the final lap of the race as well, so Ryanrod's about to claim a win, but we don't want to look away from what's going on here because all these positions could all swap around. Galloway under a lot of threat here from Lightwork. Lightwork will be very disappointed if he
Bit of
can't
a
make this
wobble
move.
there,
He does
though.
get a little bit of oversteer though, and he's going to put him on the back foot. Scavney could even have a look, but Scavney has oversteer. I'm just going to have to stop saying names here. Cam Tizzle attacking Scavney now. He's going to use the DRS.
Ryan Rods
and the
wins the
ERS.
race, by the way, and Dace crosses second.
Lightwork is going to be way too far back as well to make the
Cam
move.
Tizzle's made the move.
Calamity occurs. Cam Tizzle makes the move on Scavney. Can Scavney send it back down the inside?
It's yellow
Surely
flags,
he has to
though.
try.
It was
He
briefly.
can't, no, he backs out.
Wait, what's happened?
Galloway looks like
Galloway's
he
out
did
of
make
fuel.
a mistake, and Galloway is out of fuel.
Oh,
Lightwork manages to
heartbreak.
grab
He'd done
P5, Cam
so
Tizzle takes
well.
P6, Scavney with P7, and Galloway all the way down now to P8 from P5, running out of fuel so late on in this race. Heartbreak for him. Scornsey just going to be a little bit too far back to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, Ryan was taking the win. Dace in P2 with Lanty running off the podium. Adub taking home that P4 spot with Lightwork 11 seconds adrift.
He might be in trouble
what a
here
final
because
few
he had a
laps that was.
penalty. Alright, Slayer doesn't quite get it. Jeez. Wow, only one car lapped, but that was a ghost car, I believe. Tweezer there.
Good to see Nicky finishing P12 as well. Decent for him. I know he's had his struggles. So just to have a solid, clean race under his belt. Relatively clean anyway.
Unfortunate races for a couple of drivers here. Dusty in 13th after podium last week. Sharia with an uncharacteristically low 18th place, and in fact Red Bull both down there 17th and 18th. As VTEC just about nabs Knuckles on the line. I'm not sure if that was a penalty or if that was also another fuel issue. It could have been. But yeah, with no safety cars, there's always that issue. Is it possible that someone may have under-fueled? It looks like Galloway was the victim of that this time round. Had done so well to maintain fifth for so long.
That makes his incredible defence from Scavney even more impressive, considering he must have been trying so desperately to save fuel.
True. So Scornsey's revealed in chat that he had rear wing damage on lap 1 to accompany that front wing damage. Does explain a bit of his pace loss. 9th place, not characteristic whatsoever from him, despite that being where he qualified, I think. So 9th to 9th, not showing the full story there for Scornsey. A couple of drivers saying it was a boring race. Lanzi, of course, was by himself for a considerable time. Rear wing damage as well for Jonathan Dunk, it seems. Would explain his spins and excursions. Yeah, Dace also saying that was a long race.
Yep, you may also want to clip this race if you can as well, because I think I've had a recording issue, so if we are going to have any highlights, it would likely have to come from the RPOV, I think.
Alright, we can do that.
Ooh, managed to not bottle it for once. P3. Ada P4, Lightwork P5, with Cam Tizzle, Scavney and M Galloway making up 7th and 8th after an absolutely calamitous last lap. Scornsey in P9 with, shall we say, eventful race. Bursey with a solid drive to go from 14th to 10th, and Flair as well, 17th to 11th, and Nicky 18th to 12th. A few fantastic drives there. Shout out to driver Cam Tizzle, 16th to 6th, incredibly impressive drive. Dustin 13, Jonathan Duncan. The two Red Bulls 17th and 18th, not where they'd want to be. Tweezer 19th. And KB in 20th, who didn't manage to finish the race.
Yeah, thanks for that, Will. I'm not sure if that came through really well, you sort of robot-y for me. I'm not sure if that was the case on the stream. But to reiterate, there were bonus points there for Cam Tizzle for hardest charger and Scornsey for fastest lap, despite that damage. In chat saying he got spit roasted on lap 1. So yeah, that's a bit of a graphic one. But we shall try and get the top 3 drivers in here for interviews. Are you staying with us, Will?
I've got to hop off now, unfortunately.
Okay. Alright, so interviews
But
will
this was
be
a fantastic race.
Ryan, Dace, and Lanzi.
Yeah, and it was great to be here. Thanks everybody for watching as well, and enjoy the interviews.
Thank you, Will. See you next time. Alright, we have the drivers entering now the party for this podium interview. Looks like Lansy has joined us first. How are you going, Lansy?
I'm alright.
Alright.
How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good, thanks. Will was here, but he just left, had to go. So,
Alright.
we'll start with you since you're here first. And I know it seemed like it was possibly a boring race for you by yourself, a significant portion. But is there anything else to it, or was it just purely by yourself the whole time?
Well, it was in the beginning. I was in the train, but too many little mistakes caused me to lose the DRS. So B3 was really everything that was there today.
Okay. But the track, it's been a while since we've raced here. How do you feel about going back to China, and do you wish it was on the schedule for next season IRL?
I mean, I'm not gonna miss it. It's fun, but it's very boring. Especially if you're just on your own. Like, I don't know. It was not very entertaining to drive.
Alright. Well, yeah, we weren't really noting much other than that of you being sort of by yourself in the race, so if there's anything else you wanted to add, I don't really know what questions to ask based on that.
Yeah, there was not much to tell, to be honest. It was just very boring.
Fair enough. Well, third place is a pretty good way to celebrate a boring race, I'd say. Good points for you and the team, so congratulations on the podium.
Thank you.
Alright, we'll sort of move up the podium this time on the way to P1, so we'll go to P2 now. Dace, who also reported a bit of a snooze fest in this race. So how was that from your perspective, and did you think that there was potential to win that race at any point there, Dace?
That brief 5 laps or so that I made it back into DRS, I thought there was a shot, because it looked like Ryan's tires were starting to fall off, and with his spin in the first stint, I thought maybe he'd overheat or something. But as soon as he put that half a lap together, it was kind of done and dusted after that.
Fair enough. But now you should be pretty encouraged, I would think, after what must be your best result of the season. I think is it the first time we've spoken to you post-race in the interviews, so... and I remember that first round we didn't have interviews, but I don't think you were on the podium. I think you were about 6th or so. So looking good going forward into round 5. Do you think you'll be back here in the next rounds?
It depends where we're gonna be at.
Portugal, I believe.
Portugal. I might have a one race where I'm where I'm not on there. That's probably my least favorite track to drive.
All right. Well,
China is actually one of my favorites. So if only Ryan weren't racing.
So China, as you say, one of your favorites. Does that mean you're upset to see it off the calendar for next season IRL?
I was upset because I was excited to watch it for the first time live since I've been a fan. So kind of disappointed I'll have to wait another year for that.
That's fair enough, understandable. It's definitely a track I enjoy as well, so relatable in that circumstance.
When MotoGP came here years and years ago.
Of course. Fair enough. Alright, well congratulations on the P2 there, Dace. I think the best result for you and the team this season. Talking of best results though, Ryan now with 2 on the trot becomes the second driver to do that in the series this season after light work in the first 2 rounds. But Ryan as a reserve, possibly even more impressive. So P1 to P1 just as last week, didn't tell the full story. So what was it like this time? You sort of were P1 to P2 back to P1.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird race because it started off pretty well, pulled out a gap, and I spun in the weirdest way possible. And then I went to P3 and had to make my way back up to P1, which was kind of hard. Days was actually really fast on race pace, and well, I actually had to push.
Surprising to you that you had to push to win a race.
I mean, well, China's one of my fastest like tracks, so I was kind of expecting to have a blowout, but it's actually quite the opposite. Actually, quite a challenge.
Alright, so let's go into that. So, what exactly was the cause of your spin? Oh, I didn't really catch exactly where it was either, so was it sort of lack of concentration, sort of you sort of bored at getting away ahead, or was it a case there was something else going wrong?
Well, even when I have a gap, I like to still push just to see where's the limit. And just like qualifying in that fast left-hander in the second sector, the rear just didn't stick. It just sent me spinning into the outside of the track. I gladly caught it and not put the car in the middle of the way, but I don't know, it was just very weird. And after that lap, I just always took it a little more carefully when I felt the grip wasn't there.
It's probably a reasonable response. And in terms of the pace that you generated, how come you're so strong at this track? Has it always been the case over the years at this track, or is it you put a lot of laps in and not many people have, because I don't think it's been run in many leagues yet at this track in this game.
Well, yeah, I've always been quite strong at this track, as I know what's the gold lines, especially turn 1. You have to know what's the perfect line to be fastest, and it's such a slow corner. There's so much time to gain. There's so many apexes where you can take so many different lines and make it work. So yeah, this track just connects with me. Especially I think this is one of the strongest tracks on pad.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. That certainly lines up with my experiences around here. Alright, well, how do you feel about Portugal next week, assuming you'll be back in a seat as a reserve?
Yeah, Portugal's another of my best tracks. I find it very flowing, and I really like it, because if you want to be faster, you actually have to push and be on the actual limit.
Alright, well, we'll look out for that in 7 days' time. Does anyone else have anything to add before we end the stream?
Yep, GG's, guys.
Yeah, geez.
Oh, GG.
Alright, thank you once again to the podium. Thanks also to Will, who departed before the interviews, for being the co-commentator. I've been Elmer Jacko. This has been the Coleslaw Cup Round 4 of Season 2. And we'll see you next week for Round 5 in Portugal. Thank you, everybody.